I love you.
I love you too.
I love you too.
Are you excited for school?
Yes.
All right, let's go.
Look at how well these are growing.
Indeed.
Hello, dear viewers. Today, we bring you a heartwarming story of Day, Huyen, and little Maya, a small family full of love. Early in the morning, the couple cooks breakfast together, enjoys the meal, and takes Maya to school. The sweetest moment is when Maya calls Day Dad for the first time, melting everyone's hearts. After that, they return home and work in the garden together, sharing smiles, tender gestures, and simple happiness that they wish would last forever. If you love stories about family, love, and simple joys, don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you won't miss any of our heartwarming stories. The first rays of dawn slipped gently through the window, casting a soft glow on the small room where Day and Huyen had just awakened. The house was quiet, filled only with the sound of birds singing outside and the gentle breathing of Maya, still fast asleep in the next room. Day rose quietly, pulling a thin blanket over Maya to keep her warm, then turned to look at Huyen. In the gentle morning light, her face appeared radiant, her eyes still holding traces of sleep, but sparkling with life. "Good morning, wake up," Day said, his voice warm and full of affection. Huyen smiled, her lips curling naturally, like sunlight blending into her face. She sat up slowly, smoothing her tousled hair and taking a deep breath. They didn't need many words, just a look, a smile, and the love between them filled the room entirely. After changing their clothes, Day headed into the kitchen. He turned on the stove, placed a pot of water to boil, and started the blender. Huyen followed, carrying a basket of fresh vegetables she had picked from the garden last night. Together, they began preparing breakfast. Simple dishes were made with careful attention: golden fried eggs, fragrant bread, and freshly sliced fruits. Huyen sprinkled a touch of chia seeds into the smoothie, while Day tossed the salad, seasoning it to perfection. As they worked, they chatted freely. Huyen recounted memories of Maya's childhood, the little mischievous things she did in kindergarten, while Day shared his plans for the family, small projects in the garden, and the simple things he wished to do with Huyen in the coming days. Laughter echoed in the kitchen, mingling with the sizzle of food and the gentle trickle of water. The peaceful atmosphere made both of their hearts beat in harmony, as if they existed in a world with only them and Maya. When breakfast was served, morning sunlight streamed through the window, making the food look even more inviting. They sat together not just to eat, but to savor the warmth and connection between them. Maya bounded out of her bedroom, her hair still messy, eyes sparkling with innocence. "I'm awake," she exclaimed, jumping onto the chair and reaching for the bread on the table. Day chuckled softly and adjusted the chair so she could reach easily. Huyen bent down, smoothing Maya's hair, calming the little mess on her head. "Are you going to finish your breakfast?" Huyen asked, her voice gentle, touching every corner of her child's heart. Maya nodded enthusiastically, chewing eagerly but never missing a chance to smile. Breakfast passed quickly, yet every moment was memorable. When Maya finished, Day stood to get her coat, and Huyen checked her backpack, making sure everything was packed: books, water bottle, and a snack. Hand in hand, they led Maya to the car, ready to take her to school. Along the way, Maya held Day's hand tightly, her eyes bright like little stars. "Daddy!" Maya's voice trembled slightly, pure and sweet, before repeating softly, "Daddy!" In that instant, Day felt his heart skip a beat. For the first time, Maya officially called him Dad with sincerity and sweetness. Huyen, standing beside him, smiled brightly, her eyes glittering with joy. Together, they bent down and hugged Maya tightly. Day kissed her hair, inhaling the familiar scent of his child, feeling as if the whole world had shrunk to this single precious moment. When they arrived at the classroom, Maya jumped out of the car and ran toward her friends and teacher, but before entering, she looked back, waving, "Bye, Daddy. Bye, Mommy. I'm going to class." Day and Huyen watched her go inside, hearts swelling with happiness. They exchanged a look full of love, no words needed, just a smile that spoke volumes. They silently promised to protect and care for Maya for the rest of her life. After Maya was safely in class, Day and Huyen walked back home hand in hand. They talked about the day's plans, tending the garden, tidying up the house, and preparing some special dishes for lunch. But deep in their hearts, they knew that the happiest moment of that morning wasn't the delicious breakfast or the soft morning sunlight. It was Maya's voice calling, "Daddy." It marked a turning point in their lives, officially forming them into a family. Back at home, Day opened the door and took a deep breath of the fresh, fragrant air from the garden, while Huyen went to open the window, letting the morning sunlight fill the room. Standing side by side, they looked out at the garden, silently agreeing that these days would be some of the happiest in their lives. Every moment, every smile, every small story would be a cherished memory they wanted to hold on to. Day knew that from this moment on, he wasn't just a man living with Huyen, he was a father who loved Maya unconditionally. Huyen knew that the love between her and Day was stronger than ever because together they were building a home full of joy and warmth. That morning, they didn't just eat breakfast or take their daughter to school. They began a new day with hearts brimming with love and hope. Every glance, every smile, every caring gesture was etched into their minds, a reminder that family wasn't just about living together, it was about hearts beating in harmony, sharing every joy and sorrow, and growing together. And in that moment, as Day and Huyen turned to watch their daughter through the classroom window, they knew life had just begun. A day full of joy, love, and happiness stretched ahead, and they would walk through every simple yet priceless moment hand in hand, treasuring the life they were building together. After seeing Maya safely into her classroom, Day and Huyen walked back home hand in hand. The morning air was crisp, carrying the gentle scent of flowers and freshly watered soil from their small garden. A quiet contentment settled over them, the kind that comes from simple routines filled with love and connection. Neither spoke immediately. Instead, they exchanged a glance that said everything. Today would be another day to nurture not just their garden, but the life they were building together. As they stepped into their backyard, sunlight spilled across the garden beds, glinting off the dew still clinging to leaves. Day ran his fingers through the soft soil, feeling the cool, damp texture beneath his hands. "It's perfect weather for planting," he said with a small grin, brushing some dirt off his jeans. Huyen laughed softly, a sound that blended perfectly with the chirping of birds and the distant hum of city life waking up beyond their walls. Huyen rolled up her sleeves and picked up a watering can, while Day gathered the small tools they would need, trowels, gloves, and a basket for harvesting. Their movements were fluid and natural, as if they had been doing this together for years. But it wasn't just about gardening, it was about connection. Every glance, every smile, every subtle touch carried unspoken messages of affection. When Huyen reached for a plant and brushed her hand against Day's, he instinctively held her hand a little longer, their fingers intertwining. They started with the vegetable patch. Day knelt beside a row of young tomato plants, carefully loosening the soil around their roots. Huyen worked beside him, gently pressing the soil around a newly planted lettuce seedling. Sunlight danced across their skin, warming them as they bent over their work. Occasionally, Day would brush a speck of dirt from Huyen's cheek, and she would respond with a soft smile that made his heart flutter. These little gestures, seemingly insignificant, were the glue that strengthened their bond. The morning wore on, and the garden began to take shape. Huyen harvested ripe spinach leaves, placing them carefully in the basket, while Day tied up tomato vines to support stakes, humming softly under his breath. When the sun climbed higher, sweat began to bead on their foreheads. Without a word, Day found a towel and gently dabbed the moisture from Huyen's temples. She returned the favor moments later, wiping the sweat from his face with a playful flick, causing him to chuckle. It was in these small, shared moments that the depth of their relationship shone, the ease, the trust, and the unspoken understanding of being there for one another. Birdsong mingled with the rustle of leaves as they moved through the garden, exchanging stories about their day ahead. Huyen mentioned a new recipe she wanted to try for lunch, using fresh vegetables from the garden. Day teased her, saying that if the dish wasn't perfect, he would eat it anyway, smiling at her like a man who had found his home in her. They laughed together, their voices floating in the warm morning air, echoing through the garden in a rhythm that seemed timeless. At one point, Day straightened up and reached over to gently brush Huyen's hair from her face. "You're glowing in the sunlight," he said, his voice soft, almost reverent. Huyen's cheeks flushed a delicate pink, and she laughed, shaking her head in mock embarrassment. But she didn't pull away. Instead, she held his gaze, letting a moment of quiet intimacy linger between them, filled with warmth, affection, and a sense of belonging. As they continued working, they found themselves side by side planting flowers along the garden path. Huyen chose bright marigolds, while Day picked delicate lavender. Their hands would occasionally touch as they dug, planted, and watered, sparking small smiles and laughter. Each plant they set in the ground seemed to symbolize something deeper, the growth of their love, the nurturing of their family, and the creation of a home where happiness was found in small, everyday moments. By late morning, the garden was thriving under their care. Rows of vegetables stood tall, and colorful flowers nodded in the gentle breeze. Huyen stepped back to admire their work, wiping her hands on her apron, while Day followed, taking in the sight with a contented sigh. "It's beautiful," she said, her eyes soft and full of emotion, "just like this morning." Day smiled, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "Not just the garden," he murmured, "but everything. Us, Maya, this life we're building together." Huyen leaned into him, resting her head lightly against his chest. The warmth between them was comforting, a silent promise of shared days, laughter, and love. As the sun climbed higher, they took a short break, sitting on the garden bench with glasses of cool water. They watched the leaves shimmer in the light, and the gentle movement of the flowers in the breeze seemed almost magical. Day reached over, brushing a stray leaf from Huyen's lap, and she responded by leaning closer, their hands meeting and fingers intertwining naturally. The simplicity of the moment, just the two of them in the garden, felt profound. It was a reminder that happiness didn't have to be grand. It could be found in the everyday, in quiet smiles and shared glances. Refreshed, they returned to their work, planting more flowers, weeding, and carefully tending each plant. Whenever Huyen struggled with a stubborn root or a heavy watering can, Day was there to steady her or lend a hand. And whenever he needed a break, Huyen offered a towel or a playful pat on the back, her presence lifting him effortlessly. Their teamwork was seamless, their affection woven into every gesture, as if the garden itself thrived on their love. Hours passed, and the garden flourished under their care. The sweat on their brows, the dirt on their hands, and the warmth of the sun on their skin all became part of the tapestry of the day. They paused occasionally, exchanging glances full of laughter and fondness, silently acknowledging that these small shared experiences were the foundation of a life filled with love and joy. By the time the sun was high overhead, Day and Huyen stood side by side, surveying the fruits of their labor. Their hearts were light, their spirits lifted, and their bond stronger than ever. Every plant, every flower, every tiny seed they had tended reflected not only their care, but also their shared dreams and devotion. Finally, they washed their hands in the outdoor basin, the water running cool over their skin, washing away the dirt but leaving the warmth of their shared morning intact. They leaned against each other, tired but content, basking in the quiet satisfaction of a job well done. The garden had become more than just a patch of land. It was a testament to their love, patience, and the simple beauty of life lived together. As they looked around, Day squeezed Huyen's hand gently. "I hope life always feels like this, peaceful, simple, and full of happiness." Huyen smiled, resting her head on his shoulder. "It will," she replied confidently. "As long as we're together, every day can be this beautiful." In that serene afternoon, among the flowers and vegetables they had nurtured, Day and Huyen felt a deep sense of gratitude. Gratitude for each other, for Maya, and for the life they were building, a life where every sunrise brought warmth, every small act of love mattered, and happiness could be found in the most ordinary moments. And as they finally sat on the garden bench, side by side, watching the sunlight dance through the leaves, they knew one thing for certain. This was the life they had always dreamed of, and they would cherish every single moment together.
Hello, xin chào tất cả các khán giả của kênh Live Single RV. Vậy là câu chuyện của chúng ta ngày hôm nay đã kết thúc tại đây. Trong câu chuyện hôm nay của chúng ta thì Đệ sau khi chuyển đến ở cùng với mẹ con Huyền và bé Maya tại nông trại của Huyền thì đã có những giây phút rất là hạnh phúc giữa ba người như một gia đình thực thụ. Lệ và Huyền đã có những giây phút đưa và đón bé Maya đi học về. Đó là những giây phút mà Đệ thầm mong ước sẽ sớm xảy ra nhưng mà đã xảy ra ngoài mong đợi của anh. Cuộc sống hạnh phúc của Huyền, Đệ và Maya sẽ còn được kể ở các video tiếp theo. Các bạn đừng quên hãy bấm vào nút đăng ký kênh để nhận được thông báo mới nhất về các tập phim sẽ được phát sóng hàng ngày trên kênh Live Single RV nha. Đặc biệt đừng quên bấm nút subscribe nha. Nhớ like, share và để lại comment ở dưới video. Cảm ơn các bạn rất nhiều. Xin chào và hẹn gặp lại vào ngày mai. Bye bye and see you soon.